Welcome to the Independence Day Film Broadcast, your number one podcast for TV, film, and non-biased film reviews. Here's your host, Be Direct.
Welcome to the Independence Day Film Podcast. Today we're going to do a deep dive into the movie Sinners. We're going to talk about this film because this film is a really, really great film. Ryan Coogler did an amazing job with this film. The story, the directing, everything about this film was pretty nice. Let's talk about it. Let's dive right in. Opening image. When the film starts, we see Miles Catton, the actor who plays Sammy, bursting into a church, wounding with a broken guitar. This scene is important because it sets up the movie perfectly so that the finality is better understood. It also makes it much easier to understand the post-credit scene. Set in 1932, the Mississippi Delta, the film explores the life of two twins, Smoke and Stack, played by Michael B. Jordan, who is running from Chicago because of their involvement of starting gang wars between Al Capone and rival gangs. They landed a score and returned back to the Mississippi Delta to seek refuge. Why is these two things important? We already know right off the bat that something's going on with Sammy in the church when he has this broken guitar and he's covered in blood and things like that. This is important because the image that we see already sets us up for something that's about to happen later on in the film. And they do a great job with this because when the scene first come on, we're in the church. Now, that already sends your mind spiraling because he's bloodied, he has a guitar, he got a scratch on his face, he's damn near smoking, smoke is coming off of him. So you're wondering, all right, something had to happen, right? So we already, with the opening image, we already spiraling like, all right, I'm into it now. This is great filmmaking because it locks you directly into the movie, directly into the theme, directly into where we're going with these characters. We're trying to find out who these characters are. That's important. That's very brilliant by Ryan Coogler. We go right into where they at. 1932 Mississippi Delta. The way they dress, the way Michael B. Jordan, the two Smoke and Stack, the two twins. That's important because remember, they just coming from Chicago. They don't seem to look like everybody else that's down in the Mississippi Delta when we see it. They kind of dressed a little more professional, a little more nice, a little more neat than everybody else. So these guys ain't from around here. Even though they are from around, we found out that they're from this place, the Mississippi Delta. We know they're not from around here, but everything seems a little buttoned up. So that's important. Smoke and Stack meets a man who is obviously prejudiced and purchased an old sawmill to turn into a juke joint. A juke joint is a club that was usually owned by Black Americans in the South that musicians, specifically black musicians, were safe to play at. It was also a place where some of the best black music was born, like rock and roll, jazz, and blues. We then get Remick, Jack O'Connor's character, who is obviously running from Choctaw Indians because they realize that he is a demon vampire who doesn't belong in the Delta. Indians are indigenous to North America, so they always have a sense of sniffing out evil spirits when they are around. The way Remick is introduced, he introduced as if he flew out of the sky on fire. Like, that's important. And the fact that Indians are chasing him is significant because they seem to be the only people who understand when the evil spirit is around. It's good that they painted this picture. It's really good that they painted this picture because before he seeks shelter from this couple, he's running for his life. Somebody is already after him, and I like the fact that he was all wounded the same way Sammy was. A lot of people didn't catch that. He was also wounded and running the same way Sammy was. And you can see that this guy is bad. You can see that he's full of BS. You can see that he's about to be a troublemaker. And you are also can see that, he's already did this somewhere, and that's the backstory that runs in your mind. So it's another brilliant setup to bring in the antagonist into the film. Stack picks up Sammy for church. Sammy possesses the guitar that the twins gifted him. They meet up with Smoke, but along the way pick up Omar Miller's character Cornbread from picking cotton, not as a slave, but its actual day job with his wife. She demands him to go with Stack because anything is better than picking cotton in the Mississippi Delta in the heat. They trying to make money and it's not a lot of money, and he's deciding whether he should leave his job. And I should tell him, go ahead. If you gonna make extra money and we ain't gonna have to do this, you gonna make that money, basically. And also, a nice way to keep moving the story along. We then see Haley Steinfeld eyeballing Stack and discuss at the train station. Sammy notices and alerts Stack because he's on guard. Stack tries to play it cool, but Mary charges towards him and gives Stack a piece of her mind. This is also important because we all right, at this point we didn't see a lot of these tough dudes, these two dudes, basically a backbone, standing up for themselves, not taking no shit basically, and pretty much doing everything they need to do to open this business, everything they need to do to be independent, everything they need to do to call their own shots. And for him to be running from a girl says that there's some softness in him. He's not just this guy who's a bully, a gangster, a thug. He's a guy who's also soft-hearted, but it's wrapped up deep down inside for him to be scared of somebody like Mary. Like, why would he be scared of her? And Mary on camera, the way they introduced her, she seems sweet, lost, seemed like she's seen a ghost. She's shocked to see that this person is in the Delta, right? So move the story right along. We then see Smoke go into town, meet with the Chinese owners to get a crew to help with some of the aesthetics on the club. Grace Chow, played by Lee Jung Lee, the actor, and the actor Yao Bo Chow, who plays her husband, helps illustrate the importance of Chinese business in the Mississippi Delta. We then see Smoke negotiating with the Chinese. He then is alerted that someone is trying to steal the liquor on the back of his truck. He shoots the guy, and it happens to be people he knew when he was growing up down in the Delta. He then pays the Chinese to patch them up because the Chinese have multiple income streams, multiple business streams that they partake in. We then pan to Stack driving in the car with Sammy and the guitar and Omar Miller, who plays Cornbread. And Stack discovers that Sammy has a gift. Stack discovers that Sammy can really sing, and he asks him to play. Sammy sings, and he already see dollar signs going off. So now Stack knows that now they got somebody to perform. They got the booze already hitting. They got the bouncers. They got the Chinese who can give it a facelift. They on and popping from here. Great way to set that up. Great way to introduce those characters. Great way to kind of put all the things together so that you understand that, all right, although these guys may have a checkered past, they obviously working towards something. They obviously have an end game for the things that they're trying to do with this juke joint. also see that Smoke also has a love interest. The actor Wami Masaku, who plays Annie, seems to have a long-standing deep connection with Smoke. And pretty much, no matter how far apart they are, they still have this immense amount of love for each other. Then we move on to the club opening. The actor Delroy Lindo, who plays Delta Slim, performs at the club, and the club is jumping. Everybody's in it. Everybody's taking in the crowd. And we see Mary, who enters the club. And we already know how Stack felt about her. And we already know how pretty much that she's obviously like this thorn in Stack's side. So we move on, and Mary is trying to get in Stack good graces. She leaves the juke joint to get to know the vampires that wants to be invited in, right? Big mistake. They turn her into a vampire, and then she comes back to get invited in. And, you know, she's dancing and she's doing all these things, and that's when Sammy performs, right? And Sammy shuts the house down. He absolutely shuts the house down. But at this point, the vampires is already there. The vampires is already trying to finagle their way inside. But Stack and Smoke is not budging at this point, you know? So fast forward. Stack's walking on Mary, and Smoke pretty much, Mary and Stack, I'm sorry. Sammy walks in on Mary, and Stack pretty much getting it on, supposedly. But instead, he gets an eye-popping twist that Mary is actually feeding on Stack, and Stack is dead. So he hurry up and closes the door, you know, and before you know it, Stack is back alive, locked into the door. Mary has escaped. And that's when it's all about to take place. That's when the showdown is about to take place. We then move to the big finale. Smoke and Sammy are the lone survivors, and Samuel keeps bringing with his guitar. Smoke remembers that Remick told him that he already know how it was going to end. Basically, how the Klansmen was going to burn down the juke joint, even though they sold it to him, because they really don't want no black business in town anyway because of their prejudice, you know. And Smoke remembers that, and he basically set up so when they come, he'll already be prepared. He then kills all of them, but he's also wounded and is dying himself, which is a perfect ending to the scene. If you've seen the movie, you understand how they got to this point and all of the details that I'm leaving out for a reason. I don't want to spoil all of it, but basically it's symbolic because all they wanted was their fair share. All they wanted was the ability to be able to open up their juke joint and make money just like everybody else in peace, instead of just constantly living the life that they live, right? We then get the post-credit scenes. Fast forward to the 1990s where Sammy is obviously dying, and Stack and Mary, he seems a familiar face. Stack and Mary comes into the juke joint to hear him play in Chicago, and they both sit him down and asked him, do he want them to turn him, because they obviously could sense he dying so that he can get eternal life. He declines, you know, and that's symbolic because, like I said, he's always been the type that through the whole movie that was walking with light. This is why this will be symbolic, and this is why that opening scene was symbolic. He was walking through light. He made some mistakes along the way, as we all do, but he was walking with light the entire time, you know. He never really strayed from what was most important. The only thing he wanted to do was play his guitar and play different types of movie other than gospel music, right? All right, then we get to the final post-credit scene. And Sammy is young in church, and he's basically singing, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." Basically, like we just discussed, he was always walking with light. He never forgot where he started, right? He always gave thanks. He always served his dad first before he got into any other extracurricular activities, and the movie from start to finish paints this picture perfectly because all of the things that the protagonist was up against, they have perfect, Ryan Coogler did a perfect job with painting the way that, dropping little hints that made this film very remarkable in a sense, to where even though there were small nuggets here and there, even though there was like subtext here and there, you can still see and follow along without your mind going crazy or trying to connect the dots and doing all these other things. It was a perfect, just straight to the point story. And a lot of people like that. People don't want to have to overthink. Even though this story, if you're really looking to it, you were overthinking things. And you can't see this movie one time. You got to see it more than once to really unpack. And I'm not even unpacking it in the symbolism and things like that, what this movie means, what this scene means. I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to let you determine that for yourself. I know you got a lot of videos where people say, "Oh, this means this means that." A lot of it's opinionated, and the things that Ryan Coogler pulled from the Robert Johnson story, it's one of them. There's now uproar because he pulled from the movie. I can't think of it right now, but he pulled from a movie and people say he didn't give thanks when he obviously gave thanks. I just think that he's a remarkable director and he always paid homage to the things, and he always honest and upfront about the things he pulled from. So great movie overall. I give it an 8 out of 10. The directing was a 10 out of 10. The story was a 10 out of 10. It was fresh. It may be similar to things here and there. We already seen Jim Crow stories. We already seen vampire stories, but to bring them together and to add it down in the Mississippi Delta where a lot of slaves migrated from to other parts of America, it was just a remarkable story. You have to see it to actually understand it, and I think you should. It's on a watchable scale. It's a 10 out of 10. You got to go see the movie. If you haven't seen Sinners, please go see the movie Sinners. I'm B Direct, and thank you for watching the Independence Day Film Podcast.
Yo, smell anything? I think I shot myself.